what about you yourself? Obviously, this year going into 2020, I read you finished sixth on the Jockeys Premiership there last year. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What are your goals for this year?
I was very happy with my last season. I was the only female jockey to be in the top 10 at all. We had one other apprentice girl that did really well, and she was in the top 10, but it is harder for girls in Europe in general to get a go. But Scandinavia would be better than a lot of other countries. So my goal for 2020, if we can hold racing with the situation that's going on, it is to be on the top 5 of the rank, to go up one. And I would also like to ride in the Swedish Derby this year. Last year I rode in the Norwegian Derby, and hopefully maintain my rides in the bigger races. And because you tend to see the trend whether you get quite a lot of girls riding on the midweeks, but they don't get the chance when you go up for the bigger stakes. So now that's my goal, just to be among the top there.
Who are you based with then? Are you sort of, obviously you're out of your apprenticeship, but are you based with a trainer that you train for, or do you ride for multiple different trainers? How does it work for you?
I got a first jockey contract last year with quite a young trainer called Nicole Holmquist. She probably only trained for a couple of years last year, but now has 30 horses. So I've been very lucky. She's given me lots of support, and we got a good team going. So that's where I get majority of my rides at the moment. But I'd ride the odd ones for other trainers as well. Like in Sweden, all of the jockeys actually ride in track work. It wouldn't be like there'd be more common to see the jockeys riding track work here than it would be in New Zealand, I'd say.
And what about some big trainers? Sort of who are your bigger trainers, and have they achieved success sort of, outside of Scandinavia?
Yeah, I definitely say so. We have the biggest trainer in Sweden, that's Lennart Reuterskiöld and Patrick Wahl. They've both trained winners in Dubai and in England. And we had one trainer, he had a horse running at the Ascot, like the big race at the Ascot a couple of years ago. So we get the odd one that can compete with the elite in Middle East and rest of Europe. But in general, for the Scandinavian horses to be at the top level compared to UK horses, it's hard. Like you have to go for the little bit lesser races if you have a good horse there, because it's just such high standard, and we get rarely horses getting up to that standard. That's why we don't have the Group 1 races in Scandinavia as of yet, but it's an up and coming sport, so hopefully one day we can get that as well.
Is there much travel involved for you? So you're based at Bro Park. If you are wanting to get to some of these other meetings in summer, is there a lot of travel?
Yeah, there would be a lot of travel, because it's not only in Sweden we race. We're combined with Norway and Denmark as well. So you would have to travel a fair bit, but thanks to domestic flights, we basically fly to every racetrack. But at the moment, there's no racing in Norway and no racing in Denmark due to the coronavirus. So it's only really Sweden with our rules and restrictions that are holding races. But normally we fly unless we have to drive because there's no connection at the time, but that's very rare.
Yeah, I understand you race on like a dirt track.
Yeah.
Can you describe that to race on? Like, how is that to ride on?
Oh gosh, it's very different. When I rode in New Zealand, I obviously only ridden on the turf. And the first race I went out in, I raced in November, which is the wintry months. I was only having one pair of goggles, and all the jockeys were looking at me like, who's this mad person? And it took a while to adjust to it, because you get so much kickback. Like sometimes you will have to carry maybe 6 pairs of goggles in the wintertime on the dirt track, because it's that much kickback coming up. So yeah, it's different style of racing on the dirt. You can ride a little bit looser than on the turf, and different pacing as well. But I definitely prefer the turf. And whereas you look at my strike rate, it's nearly twice as high on the turf as well. So numbers numbers say that I like the turf.
And I also read you recently won one of the Jockeys series held in Madrid. How was it like riding in Spain?
Oh, that was a really cool experience. Never been with racing in Spain before, but the racing in Spain is not very big. It's about 1,000 horses in the country, like race horses. But they held such a professional like tournament, and the track was amazing to ride on. It would be just as big as the Wellington turf track, the turf in Madrid, which is huge. So they held top class racing, and the horses, they were very nice, and they had good animal welfare point of view. So no, it was a good experience. Good to meet other. It was a tournament for female jockeys, so it was nice to meet female jockeys from different parts of the world, like South America and Asia. So no, it was really cool.
Just a little bit on females in racing. Obviously, in New Zealand, I don't know if you've kept following, but like our central districts, quite a few times, females have won all the races on the race card. We've got a lot more females participating as jockeys, trainers, owners. Do you think it will improve over there? Do you feel like if you can, as you say, get into the top 5 this year and keep promoting your profile, do you feel you can bring more women into the sport?
Definitely. Like, you need just a few women that do well. And I think Sweden, we've had good female jockeys in the past, but sort of like the last 10 years, they haven't come up in that way. So it's died out a bit. We had 2 like females maybe 20 years ago that were on the top 3 level. But now it just tends to, they don't get the chances as much, and then they lack that riding ability because they don't get the chances. So, but I think it's up and coming all the time. You see the boys are getting heavier and girls do the weights easier. So now it's definitely coming here in Europe as well. You see UK lets the girls get more chances now as well. So I think it's important that you get a couple of girls that do well for the trainers to see that we are just as good as the boys.
We are, certainly. And just on that, do you think, what I wanted to ask you is, obviously you came over to New Zealand, you hadn't ridden in races, had you? You learned
No.
New Zealand. What's the attraction? We do see a lot of Scandinavians coming to New Zealand, especially young women as well, in the racing industry. What are some of the positives in coming to New Zealand to learn racing?
Yeah. Just New Zealand, I think, attracts as a country. It's a very beautiful country. It's an exotic country. It's very safe and clean, and the values and people are so nice. But with the racing, I think it attracts that it's so big, like, and people are very enthusiastic about racing and passionate, and it's just easy to learn here. I didn't barely know how to ride a racehorse when I came to New Zealand. I just knew horses, and within 6 months, I was quite good educated from riding 13 to 15 horses a day at Murray Baker's stable. So you learn quick when you get the quantity of rides as well. And I'm very glad I started off riding in New Zealand and not in Scandinavia, because we don't have an apprentice school in that sense as New Zealand do. So over in New Zealand, I got to learn a lot from other senior jockeys and Noel Harris at the apprentice school, which was invaluable later on to have that skill. And as well as you get opportunity to ride more races, because you would ride more races in one season in New Zealand than you would over in Scandinavia. So with the more rides, you get more experience. I'm very, very glad I started off there.
Do you have any plans to come back one day?
I definitely do. I was back in 2017 in the winter and rode a little bit, and it was nice. People were very nice to me and gave me rides when I was there for a week. And I definitely want to come back. Maybe to the summer.